healthy sleep is really important. And there's some main areas that we look at when we talk about healthy sleep and sleep hygiene. One is making sure that your circadian rhythm is really healthy, and we've talked about that. Physical activity is a really important component of healthy sleep. So making sure you're physically active in the day and active to the point where your heart rate's up. Light is huge. That is, for us here, that is what controls our body clock, is light. Our body clock runs on a 24-hour plus cycle, right? But we know the Earth is on a 24-hour rotation, but our body clocks are actually on a bit of a longer rotation. But what controls our body clock is light, right? There was a researchers that went into a cave, a really, really, really dark cave, and they kind of went through their general routines. They slept, and based on the data, realized that they actually stayed on a really good rhythm. They just added 15 minutes every day because they weren't being cued by light. So light is so important when it comes to managing your circadian rhythm, and we'll talk a little bit about that. And then your eating routines. It is not uncommon for autistic kids to have issues around whether it's eating, feeding, gastro, etc. And that can really impact your sleep cycle.
So sleep through our lens. So as behavior analysts, we look at our original training is through, well, I mean, it's through behavior. So we look at it from a behavior perspective. And when we broke it down and when we learned about sleep, we were actually this lens and this breakdown made so much sense to us. So what we look at is what happens, like what is the behavior that we're targeting? And when it comes to sleep, it's that act of falling asleep. So it's that rolling over, closing our eyes, and letting our body just sink into that sleep cycle. What we have learned is that addressing sleep, we really have to tackle before. So what happens before? How can we set up, what do we need to have in the environment to set our body up for success to engage in that behavior of falling asleep? So things like cool temperature, dim lighting, laying down in bed, that bedtime routine is all very, very important to get here. And then sleep itself is so powerful that our body wants more of it, and it starts to it's the reinforcer in the equation. It's the thing that will increase the likelihood of falling asleep in the future. So it all ties together and it comes into this loop, and we've got our cool temperature, falling asleep, sleep. And then we look at it from that lens. Hilary, is there anything you want to add?
I think it's really helped to have, because behavior analysis, those two words, behavior analysis, is answering why something happens. That's what that is. And for sleep, it's really important to understand why sleep isn't happening. And that ties into common sleep problems that we come across. Is it because they're waking at night? Is it because they're having trouble falling asleep? Is there something in the day that isn't promoting healthy sleep? So a lot of what we do are what would be called antecedent interventions. A lot of what we do is look at, well, how can we proactively set up a healthy sleep cycle so that a child is more likely to fall asleep? Disruptive behavior sometimes pops up too at bedtime. That's what I had to tackle with my little one. When I was, my two kids, my older one had sleep problems, and I looked at every single book I could find or that I could manage to read because I was tired, but I looked at all these parenting books of what I could do with sleep, and none of it really clicked with me, and I felt like I was doing all of it, and it kind of drove me a little nuts. And then it didn't occur to me to look into my own field for whatever reason. And when I did that, I started sleep training with my second. And I think understanding this framework that sleep is actually the thing that perpetuates more sleep. I don't know if you guys have ever heard that saying, sleep begets sleep. So you should let your kids nap a little longer. Like sleep just promotes sleep. And that's actually true, because once your body gets into that natural rhythm and habit of sleeping well, it wants to keep doing that. And so it will, as long as all other conditions are how it needs to be. So once we achieve healthy sleep, kids tend to stick to that because that's what their body is seeking out. Which is a huge help for us to understand it from that perspective. And I think it's a different lens, but it's one that's really helped us tackle some pretty significant sleep problems
Mhm.
just by having that larger lens, and then having the expertise in sleep and child development and understanding what would be typical, what would be appropriate for that age, and then understanding sleep itself and how that works. So combining all of that has been a huge help in understanding sleep and then helping others with it as well.